What's up, you guys? It's Hayden and my beautiful partner, Breanna.
Hi.
As many of you know, Breanna is a cosmetologist. So right now we're in her workplace and we're filming this video because I've gotten a lot of people throughout the years that have requested for me to do a video of FTM hairstyles with Breanna because she is, she paid thousands of dollars and went to school for quite some time to cut people's hair. And the neat thing about Breanna is she really wants to cater to help people who are queer identified, and so she wants to make it a safe space for them and a positive experience for them, because let's face it, especially pre-transition or if you're very early on in your transition, it can be really hard to verbalize what you're wanting your hair to look like. And if your stylist doesn't know your story, they're likely, and I hate saying it, but they're likely going to be focusing more on the binary, so there's certain things that you can do with hair, with facial features, face shapes, that are more masculine and more feminine. And so that's why I think it would be really awesome if me and Breanna did this video.
So what we're gonna do today is I'm gonna give Hayden a haircut and show you some tips on what to show your stylist to give you more of a masculine haircut, something to shape your face a little bit more with the harder edges.
As a stylist, talk a little bit about face shape as far as femininity goes and masculinity goes, with how you would want to shape a haircut, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. So there are 5 stereotypical face shapes. There is oval, which is the ideal face shape. There's square, squoval, heart-shaped, and then diamond. Not many people actually have that specific face shape. Usually it's a combination of 1 or 2 of them. So for myself, I have a very square face. I personally love having short hair because I think it gives me harder edges, which would technically be masculinizing the face. So it gives you a little bit of a harder edge. You're wanting to basically square the face out more in getting more masculine haircuts, whereas if you're wanting to feminize it, you're trying to soften it and round it to create that perfect oval. Oval face shapes are usually more symmetrical in the sense that they can really work with any haircut and anything's gonna look good on them. So a round shape is where we're going to kind of angle things a little differently to try to square the face out, harden your edges, especially mostly with more masculine haircuts. You're gonna wanna square out the jawline instead of trying to soften that, what you would do with a typical feminizing a haircut by softening that. So we're gonna pretty much do the opposite. You can harden those lines with long hair, shaggy hair, short hair. So if you like to have long hair and you want more of a masculine look, don't think that you have to cut it all off. There's definitely many styles you can do. It's just being comfortable in what you want and making sure that your stylist knows that verbiage and knows the techniques to get there.
Yeah, okay, so what kind of haircut are we going to be doing on me today? Because I am so indecisive and I basically just have her do whatever she does.
He's my worst client.
But, I'm your best client. But you gotta think, like, all throughout my entire life, my mom was a cosmetologist, and then I married a cosmetologist. So I have really strong trust in the women in my life, and I know Breanna knows me well enough where I just basically say, make me look good, and she does it. But I remember one thing in the very beginning of my transition, or early on in it, when I started getting sideburns. That's when I started noticing my haircuts a little bit more and what I was wanting and having to verbalize that. And so today, what kind of haircut are we doing on me?
So we're gonna do a tight bald fade. Just because I thought that it would demonstrate a little bit more to help push out features that are typical in like a cis man for masculine haircuts. And with a bald fade, that doesn't mean you have to get rid of your sideburns, so I'll kind of show you how we're going to blend the sideburns as well as how to verbalize that. Hayden usually doesn't like me to touch his beard, which I get it.
I gotta learn how to do my face too.
I know. I love barbering. But so we'll blend his sideburns in because they're quite outgrown and they don't blend with his beard either. So we'll kind of do a backwards blend from fading the bottom of the sideburn into that skin fade so that you get a nice easy transition. And there's not just a hard line of being like, okay, you're bald here, but now you got this tiny little piece of sideburn. So we'll work on that as well as how to use a really nice contrast with a bald fade to make your occipital bone, which is the backbone muscle where your head kind of curves in the back. Usually cis men have more of a prominent occipital, so we're gonna show how to contrast that with the hair and the definition of the hair to create more of a seamless occipital bone. Then we'll do a little something on the top. Not sure what I'm gonna do with him yet, but
Yeah.
keep his curl.
I like my curl. So I think that's all. There's probably more. We'll probably, as she's cutting my hair, we'll probably stop the camera and talk a little bit or do a voiceover afterwards when I'm editing the video, because there's little fine details that I'm pretty sure Breanna's gonna nerd out about and want to talk about. And then that's awesome and amazing. So with that said, we're gonna get this set up and she's gonna take care of my shag of a mess and we'll go from there.
So right now I'm going in with my clipper to put in a line to see where I'm going to put the bald fade so that you can get a better visual. Different stylists will do this differently, so I work from short to long and some stylists work from short or long to short, so don't be alarmed if they start with a longer guard and go shorter. Everybody's preference is different. This is just how I've become more comfortable with doing bald fades. And where I'm putting my lines in is going to be technically more of like a medium to low fade. A low fade is going to be underneath the temples on the sides. A medium fade is going to be at temple, and then a higher fade is going to be closer to the round of the head. And then for keeping the sideburns, I just put my clipper down just where the ear attaches to the head, and then later we'll go and blend that in so you get more of a seamless blend. So this part in the back where I have kind of the upside down triangle, that is where we're going to create that more prominent occipital bone. Hayden's is pretty subtle, so this will just add some definition to it and contrast with the hair to create that look of the occipital bone. You can always go lower with it, you don't have to go that high of a fade. Just with his haircut, I like to go a little bit higher with it, just so it matches with everything. And this is all going to depend on the density of your hair, the color of your hair, and texture as well. So you can always get this look, but you don't have to always go down to skin. You can keep it at like 1/4 of an inch. Some people keep it at 1/2 inch. There's some people I've worked on where more of a tight fade is about 1/2 inch, which is technically more of a medium length. So let the stylist determine your hair texture and density and give you the haircut you want. It just might not actually be the measurements of like in a picture that you showed them. So while I'm working on his haircut, some things you should definitely talk with your stylist about is when you bring in a picture that is more masculinized or a masculine haircut, and if they try to feminize it, in all my years of working, a lot of stylists don't ask for a preference of if you prefer it more masculine or feminine. That's something I've kind of just adapted throughout my work, and especially with the clients I have in the community. So if you're going into a salon and you show them a picture and they ask you like your sideburns, stereotypical sideburns if you don't have facial hair, squared off is going to be more masculine, angled is going to be a little bit more feminine. Even though I had a guy once from France, or who went to Italy, and said that they all angle their sideburns. So it's really your preference.
Yeah, and I do want to know, I just want to chime in real quick with this video, like, you don't have to fit in a certain box.
No.
You know, your gender expression is very fluid, and I mean gender itself is very fluid, and it's not like this rigid thing where, you know, to be masculine you have to have a short haircut, as Breanna was saying earlier. You can have long hair and still be masculine, and likewise, like, you know, if you're more of a feminine trans man, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, and that makes you not any less of a man by any means. This is just my, you know, my style, really. I'm definitely more on the binary side of things, so I like to have a masculine styled haircut.
If there's anything else,
I think it would be good, like, when you actually are going into the sideburns a little bit, just talking a little bit about how you navigate that, because that was always an ongoing battle where, like, at first I remember, like, you're like, well, no, we have to do it like this. I'm like, no, there's got to be another way.
you learn.
Yeah.
Okay. So right here, I am blending the sideburns into the skin fade. So I normally just call this a backwards fade, because you're pretty much fading from long to short, instead of, like, what I prefer is short to long. So some people do this differently. You can just use a clipper comb or comb in your scissors, and they're going to basically start from extremely short and push the hair away from the face to get a little longer in the sideburns, so that it blends and makes more of a cohesive look. So if you want to keep your sideburns, make sure you verbalize that to your stylist. If you have just a very little amount of sideburn and you're wanting to do a skin fade, maybe have them start with like a 1/2 inch, because that will at least keep some sideburn for you, and it'll make it appear a lot more denser than it is, but it'll still give you a tight fade, especially if you have finer hair. Like, I remember when Hayden first started tea, and usually a 1/2 inch on his hair would look pretty tight. He does have a pretty fine hair texture, so I feel like it's gotten darker.
I don't know, I feel like I'm getting whiter.
Darker with some grays. But a 1/2 inch used to be kind of where we would normally keep him at, especially for the sideburns, because that was something that wasn't requested often, and bald fades weren't as trendy, besides like the usual military high and tight. And then I'm just edging out a little bit of his hairline to give it a sharper edge. Again, I don't touch his beard area just because he prefers to do that. Your stylist can edge out your facial hair, and should be equipped to do so. Again, if you have a stylist that you love and they're not normally doing men's cuts or short fades, clipper work with them a little bit. It took me a while to master that and get used to it, but once you get the hang of it, it gets to be pretty easy and self-explanatory. And again, just let them know that you want to have your sideburns faded in. And this is the end result for the haircut. You can see that we blended in the sideburns into the bald fade, as well as made that occipital bone a little bit more prominent using the shadows and density of his hair.
I'm incredibly happy with my hairstyle, and this honestly is a very typical haircut of what I would get, especially in the summertime. Usually in the wintertime, I keep it a little bit longer, but summertime, this is the type of hair style that I go for. But with that said, if any of you have any requests for hair videos with Breanna in it, please just shoot me a message and we can go from there. I know Breanna gets really jazzed up about talking about hair, doing hair, and this kind of stuff is just right down her alley, and especially helping queer identified people. This is a passion of hers. I want a baby. Nope. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. If you ever have any questions of hair stuff, even if you're not trans-identified or queer-identified, and you just want to pick Breanna's brain, go ahead and shoot me a message, and I'll relay the information to Breanna, and she's full of really great information with that kind of stuff. And like I said, I really wanted to do this video with her because, well, A, she's my partner, she's a cosmetologist, and she's queer identified herself, and it's just amazing that she helps so many queer identified people, because we live in a very rural area too. So we're very lucky to have our own little Miss Meow here. We should probably skedaddle out of here though, because it's Sunday.
Yep.
All right, bye guys.
Bye.